My name is Michelle Lopez. I'm 72 years old, and I live on a vineyard estate in the Midwest that my son, Daniel, never imagined I could afford. A year and a half ago, that same son spit in my face and screamed, "You disgusting old woman, get out of my sight." What he didn't know is that while he was spitting at me, I had already decided to disappear from his life forever. But he also didn't know that his mother, whom he saw as a useless retiree, owned 116 acres of vineyards that produced premium wine, valued at over $3 million. Listen to this story until the end, because it will change the way you see relationships between parents and children. It all started on a Saturday morning last April. I was in the small Chicago apartment where I'd lived for the last 8 years, ever since my husband, Hope, passed away. It was a modest 2-bedroom place in the Lincoln Park neighborhood, with old but comfortable furniture. That day, I was expecting a visit from my son Daniel, his wife Rachel, and my 2 granddaughters, Martha and Sarah. It was a tradition we'd kept every other Saturday since they moved to the suburbs 5 years ago. Daniel arrived that morning with an attitude I had never seen before. He walked in without a greeting, which was very strange for him, and went straight to the living room where I was reading the paper. Rachel stayed in the hallway with the girls, who were 12 and 9. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, his tone cold and unfamiliar. "Of course, honey, sit down. What's wrong?" I replied, setting the paper aside. Daniel sat on the sofa across from me. He was 38. He worked as a manager at a construction company and had always seen himself as a successful man. He lived in a townhouse in Naperville, had a nice car, and led a comfortable life. "Mom, this situation just can't go on," he began. "What situation?" I asked, not understanding where he was going. "Your situation, Mom. The way you're living is unsustainable." I just stared at him, confused. "My way of living?" "What's wrong with my way of living?" I asked. Daniel ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit of his. "Mom, you're 72 years old. You get a retirement pension of $900 a month. You live alone in this old apartment that's falling apart. You have no savings. You have nothing of value." His words hit me like a ton of bricks. "Daniel, I live just fine on my pension. I don't need anything," I told him. "You don't need anything?" "Mom, look around you. The furniture is from the 80s. The fridge makes a horrible noise. You have an old tube TV, no air conditioning, no dishwasher. You don't have anything modern." "Son, I don't need all those things. I'm used to living like this, and I'm comfortable," I explained. Daniel got up and started pacing the living room. "Mom, every time we come here, Rachel and I feel bad. The girls get bored because there's nothing for them to do. You don't have internet, no games, no entertainment for them." Just then, Rachel walked in. "How's the conversation going?" she asked. Daniel glanced at her, and she nodded, as if this was all planned. "Rachel and I have been talking," Daniel continued, "and we think you need to move into a nursing home." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you asking me to go to a nursing home?" I asked. "I'm asking you to be realistic, Mom, to accept that you can't live alone anymore. In a home, you'd have medical care, company, activities, 3 meals a day, cleaning, everything taken care of. And for you, it would be for the best?" I asked directly. Daniel hesitated for a moment. "For us, it would be a relief, not having to constantly worry about you. Not having to come here every other Saturday to see if you're okay, if you've eaten, if you took your medicine, if you need anything." Rachel came over and sat on the arm of the sofa. "Michelle, don't take this the wrong way, but since Hope died 8 years ago, you've changed a lot. You've gotten slower, more forgetful, more needy." "More needy?" I asked. "Yes, Mom," Daniel said. "You're always calling to ask about unimportant things. You always need us to take you to the doctor, the bank, to run errands. It's exhausting." His words hurt me deeply, but I kept my composure. "Daniel, I don't call you that much," I said. "Mom, you call me at least 3 times a week, and it's always for silly things. You don't know how the new remote works. You don't understand a letter from the bank. You don't know what brand of detergent to buy," Rachel added. "The girls are growing up, and they'd rather do other things on Saturdays. Go to the mall, to the movies, to my parents' house, which is bigger and has a yard and a pool. They get so bored when they come here." "They prefer going to your parents' house?" I asked Rachel. "Yes, Michelle. My parents have a modern house in Oak Park, with all the comforts. The girls have more fun there. Everything here is just too old-fashioned for them." Daniel stood in front of me. "Mom, Look at this apartment. The bathroom tiles are from the 70s. The kitchen is tiny and ancient. The furniture is worn out. Everything smells damp and musty. It makes us—" He stopped. "It makes you what?" I asked. "It makes us sad to come here, Mom. It's depressing to see how you live." Those words hurt more than I could express. My own son was telling me that my home was depressing to him. "Daniel, this is the house where you used to come for Sunday dinner when you were little. We celebrated your birthdays here. We had Christmas dinners here after you got married." "I know, Mom, but that was then. Things have changed. We've moved up in the world. We have a better house, a higher standard of living, and you're stuck in the past." Rachel nodded. "Michelle, it's not that we don't love you. It's that we want what's best for you. And what's best is for you to be cared for in a home." "Have you already looked at a place?" I asked them. "Yes," Daniel replied. "There's a very good one in Oak Park. It's called the Orchard Residence. They have private rooms, a 24-hour doctor, a physical therapist, activities for seniors. With your pension and the sale of this apartment, you could easily afford it." I was quiet for a few minutes, processing everything. "And what if I don't want to go to a home?" I finally asked. Daniel sighed. "Mom, it's for your own good. You can't keep living alone. It's dangerous for you and a burden for us." At that moment, the girls walked into the living room. "Grandma, can we go now?" asked Martha, the older one. "We're going to be late. We made plans to go to the movies with our friends," Sarah added. Daniel looked at his daughters, then back at me. "See, Mom, the girls have their own plans. They don't enjoy coming here like they used to." "It's okay," I told my granddaughters. "You can go. Grandma understands you have more important things to do." Rachel stood up. "Michelle, please think about the residents. It's the best thing for everyone." Daniel approached me. "Mom, I'll take you to visit the home tomorrow. That way you can see it and decide." "There's no need, son," I said. "I've already made my decision." Daniel smiled, thinking he had won. "I'm glad you see it that way, Mom. It's going to be for the best." "Yes," I said. "It's going to be for the best for everyone." That afternoon, after they left, I sat in my favorite armchair, looking at the family photos on top of the television. Hope and I on our wedding day. Daniel, as a little boy at his first communion. Family vacations by Lake Michigan. Birthdays, celebrations, happy moments that now felt like they belonged to another life. But Daniel didn't know something very important. He didn't know that his mother, the woman he saw as a poor, needy retiree, had a secret she had kept for 15 years. While he saw me as a pensioner living on $900 a month, I was actually the owner of the most productive vineyard in the entire region, inherited from my older brother who died childless 15 years ago. The story began exactly 15 years ago, when Hope was still alive and Daniel had just married Rachel. My brother Anthony, who was 8 years older than me, had bought the estate in the 90 seconds with money he'd earned working overseas in Germany for 20 years. Anthony never married, never had children, and was always a very private man about his finances. When Anthony died in a car accident on the highway to Indianapolis, I was his only heir. The estate had 116 acres of mature Cabernet Sauvignon vines, its own winery, and distribution contracts with international companies. It was a business that generated significant profits, but Anthony had always been discreet about the money he earned. The day the lawyer called me in to read the will, I couldn't imagine what was coming. I was in his office in downtown Chicago, with Hope beside me, listening as Mr. Fernandez read the document. To my sister, Michelle Lopez, I leave my entire estate, consisting of the vineyard known as Street. Anthony's Vineyard, located in the rural Midwest, with an area of 116 acres, as well as the winery, machinery, vehicles, and all funds deposited in the bank accounts. Hope squeezed my hand tightly as the lawyer continued reading the figures. The estate was valued at $2.8 million. The bank accounts held $340,000. The annual profits from the wine business were approximately $180,000 after taxes. In one afternoon, I had become a millionaire. When we left the lawyer's office, Hope and I were in shock. "Michelle," he said, "did you have any idea Anthony had this much money?" "Not a clue, Hope. I knew the vineyard was doing well, but I never imagined this much." Hope looked at me with concern. "What are we going to do with all this? Are we going to tell Daniel?" That question made me think. Daniel had just gotten married. He was starting his career, trying to find his place in the world. Hope and I decided it was best not to tell him anything for the time being. "Let's wait and see how things go," I told my husband. "There will be time to tell him later." The first few years after inheriting the estate were a learning process. I hired a manager named Michael, who had worked with my brother for many years. "Miss Lopez," Michael said the first time we visited the estate together, "your brother told me that if anything ever happened to him, I was to help you manage all of this. The winery practically runs itself, but it needs supervision." Michael was a trustworthy man, about 50 years old, who knew every vine on the property. "Miss Lopez, we produce the highest quality premium wine here. We have clients in Italy, France, and Germany who pay top dollar for our product. Your brother built a solid business." During those first years, I kept working as an electrician in Chicago. I had started my own small repair business after retiring from the company where I worked for 35 years. Hope worked at a clothing store downtown. To the outside world, we were still Michelle and Hope, a working-class couple living a modest life. I reinvested the profits from the vineyard into certificates of deposit and into improvements for the operation itself. Michael was constantly suggesting we modernize the winery, buy new machinery, expand our storage capacity. "Miss Lopez, if we invest in technology, we can increase production and improve the quality of the wine even more." Why did I keep the secret for all those years? At first, because I didn't want to change our way of life. Hope and I were happy living simply. We didn't need luxuries or extravagance. Later, when Daniel started working and building his own family, I didn't want him to think he had a rich mother who would solve all his problems. When Hope died of pancreatic cancer 8 years ago, I seriously considered telling Daniel the truth. But right around that time, he was going through financial difficulties. They had bought the house in Naperville with a huge mortgage. Rachel had just quit her job to take care of the girls, and I could see they were under a lot of financial pressure. I didn't want Daniel to know I had money because I was afraid it would change his attitude toward me. I wanted him to visit me because he loved me, not because he was hoping for a financial handout. I wanted him to be independent, to build his own future without relying on his mother's inheritance. During these 8 years as a widow, I've maintained the same standard of living. I collected my pension, lived in the same modest apartment, wore the same simple clothes. But every month, Michael deposited between $12,000 and $18,000 in profit from the vineyard into my account money that I saved without spending on anything special. On the Saturdays when Daniel came with his family, I watched how they treated me. At first, in the years right after Hope died, they came with affection and seemed genuinely concerned for me. But slowly, I started to notice changes. The visits became less frequent. The comments about my lifestyle became more common. "Mom, aren't you cold in the winter without central heating?" Daniel would ask. "Mom, wouldn't it be better if you bought a new TV? This one is hard to see," Rachel would say. "Grandma, why don't you have internet like us?" the girls would ask. I always told them I was fine, that I didn't need more things, that I was happy with what I had, but they had decided I was poor and that I needed their help and their pity. When we went out to eat, they always paid, even when I insisted. "Don't worry, Mom, it's our treat," they'd say, as if they were doing me a favor. After that horrible conversation on Saturday, when Daniel suggested I go to a nursing home, I made a decision. I wasn't going to tell them the truth about the vineyard. I wasn't going to explain that I had enough money to buy 10 houses like theirs. I wasn't going to beg them for respect. I was simply going to disappear from their lives and let them live with the consequences of their words. If you've gone through something similar with your family, if they've made you feel like a burden, I'd like you to subscribe to this channel and tell me what city or country you're listening from. Sometimes, other people's stories help us understand our own, and maybe your story deserves to be told one day too. The next day, Sunday morning, I started putting my plan into action. The first thing I did was call Michael, the manager of the estate. "Michael, I need to see you urgently. Can you come to Chicago this Sunday?" "Of course, Miss Lopez. Is something wrong?" "Nothing serious, but I need to talk to you about some important changes." Michael arrived at my apartment that afternoon. He was a trusted man who had been working with me since I inherited the property. He knew all the details of the business and knew that I had kept my financial situation a secret. "Miss Lopez, what do you need?" "Michael, I'm moving. I'm leaving Chicago, and I need the winery to run completely without me." "You're moving? Where to?" "That doesn't matter right now. The important thing is that you can manage everything without me having to be here." "Is that possible?" Michael thought for a moment. Miss Lopez, the winery practically runs itself. I handle production, sales, the employees, everything. You just have to sign some papers from time to time and receive the profits. Perfect. And if you need me to sign something urgently, can we do it by mail, or can I give you power of attorney for certain matters? Michael looked at me curiously. Miss Lopez, may I ask why you're leaving Chicago? Are you having problems with your family? Let's just say my son has decided I'm too old to live alone and wants to put me in a nursing home, I explained. Michael's jaw dropped. Your son wants to put you in a home? Does he know about the vineyard? He knows nothing. To him, I'm a poor retiree living on $900 a month. And you're not going to tell him? I'm never going to tell him. My son has shown me that he sees me as a burden. If he knew I had money, his attitude would change, but not out of love. Out of greed. Michael nodded. I understand, Miss Lopez. And what do you need me to do? I need you to find a way to keep sending me the profits wherever I am. I also need you to say nothing if my son comes asking for me. You don't know me. Michael smiled. Miss Lopez, after working together for 15 years, I think I've grown fond of you. If you want to disappear, I'll help you disappear. On Monday morning, I called a real estate agency to list my apartment for sale. Good morning, I want to sell my condo in Lincoln Park. The agency sent an appraiser that same week. She was a young, professional woman who went through the apartment taking measurements and photos. Miss Lopez, she said when she finished, this condo is in a great location in Lincoln Park. It's a very desirable area. Even though it needs some updates, I think we can list it for around $180,000. The figure seemed fine. It wasn't a lot of money compared to what I had, but it was enough for what I needed. While I waited for the apartment to sell, I started looking for a new place to live. I didn't want to go too far from the Midwest because I needed to be relatively close to the estate. I thought about cities in Wisconsin or Michigan. Finally, I decided to look in Michigan, in some quiet lakeside town where I could live without anyone knowing me. During those weeks, I had to keep up appearances with Daniel. He called me every couple of days to ask if I had thought about the nursing home. Mom, have you called the Orchard residence yet? Not yet, son. I'm thinking about it. Mom, don't think so much. It's the best thing for you. I also got calls from Rachel. Michelle, how are you holding up? We know this must be difficult for you. I'm fine, Rachel. I just need a little time to get used to the idea. We're so glad you see it that way. When you're in the home, we'll come visit you every week. One Thursday afternoon, Daniel showed up unannounced. Mom, I came to take you to see the residence. I want you to see it before you make a final decision. That's not necessary, son. I've already made my decision. Daniel smiled, thinking he had won. And what's your decision? I'm leaving, but not to a nursing home. Daniel's expression changed completely. What do you mean, not to a nursing home? Where are you going? I'm going far away from Chicago, where no one knows me and no one can judge me for how I live. Daniel got nervous. Mom, that's crazy. You can't just go live alone in another city at your age. Why can't I? Because you need care. Because you need us to be close by in case something happens to you. Daniel, in the 8 years since your father died, how many times have you come to take care of me when I've been sick? How many times have you been here when I really needed help? Daniel fell silent because he knew I was right. Mom, but that's different. If you go to another city, we won't be able to come even if we want to. And when have you wanted to come without me asking you to? Mom, don't be unfair. We have our lives, our work. The girls have their activities. Exactly. You have your lives, and I'm going to have mine. Daniel stood up from the sofa. What if something happens to you? What if you have an accident? What if you get sick? Daniel, if something happens to me, that will be my problem. I'm old enough to take care of myself. Mom, that's irresponsible. You're my mother, and I have a duty to take care of you. Now you have a duty to take care of me? When have you fulfilled that duty in the last few years? Daniel turned red with anger. Mom, we come to see you every other Saturday. You come every other Saturday for 2 hours. You get bored. The girls complain they want to leave, and you rush out. That's not caregiving. That's checking a box. But it's so boring here, Daniel shouted. There's nothing to do. This apartment is depressing. It smells old. Everything is outdated. And then, what I never thought could happen, happened. Daniel walked up to me, looked me in the eyes, and spit in my face. You disgusting old woman. You're selfish. You only think about yourself. We sacrifice to come here every 2 weeks, and you throw it in our faces. You're insane if you think we're going to let you move to another city and cause us more problems. I was paralyzed. My own son had spit on me. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my shirt and stared at him. In that moment, I knew something between us had broken forever. It wasn't just that he wanted to put me in a home. It was that he despised me. "Daniel," I said, with a calmness that surprised even me, "get out of my house." "What? Get out of my house?" "Immediately." "Mom, I'm not going anywhere until you see reason. Get out of my house, or I'm calling the police." Daniel stared at me for a few seconds, as if he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Are you kicking me out?" "I am kicking you out, and I never want to see you again." "Mom, you can't be serious." "I have never been more serious in my life." Daniel gathered his things and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "Mom, when you regret this decision, it's going to be too late. I will never regret it, Daniel. You're the one who is going to regret this for the rest of your life." After Daniel left my house, after spitting on me and calling me a disgusting old woman, I sat in my armchair and made the most important decision of my life. I wasn't just going to move far away from Chicago. I was going to do something that would change my life forever. I was going to live like the wealthy woman I truly was. For 15 years, I had maintained a modest lifestyle to avoid raising suspicion about my true financial situation. I had lived on just enough. I had saved every dollar of profit from the vineyard. I had given up comforts I could easily afford. But if my own son despised me, thinking I was poor, it was time to stop pretending to be poor. The next morning, I called Michael. "Michael, how much money do I have right now exactly?" "Miss Lopez, between the checking accounts, CDs, and conservative investments we've made, you have about $2,100,000 in liquid assets. That's on top of the value of the estate, which is appraised at $2,800,000. And what are the current monthly profits? Over the last 12 months, the average has been $15,000 a month, after taxes, Miss Lopez. But now, during the high season for harvesting, it can reach $20,000 some months." I was silent, processing the numbers. A total net worth of $4,900,000, $15,000 a month in passive income. I was richer than my son could imagine in his wildest dreams. "Michael, I want you to find me a house on the lake, in Michigan. A nice house, a luxury house, with a yard and a pool, a budget of $400,000. $400,000, Miss Lopez? Are you sure?" "Completely sure. It's time I lived according to my actual situation." Michael was silent for a moment. "Miss Lopez, I'm happy to hear you say that. For all these years, I've seen you deprive yourself of things you could perfectly afford. Also, find a new car. A Mercedes or a BMW, high-end. Miss Lopez, may I ask what happened to cause such a radical change of heart?" My son spit in my face and called me a disgusting old woman. I think it's time he learned who his mother really island. Michael was outraged. "Your son spit on you? Miss Lopez, that's unbelievable, after everything you've done for him. Michael, my son knows nothing about what I've done for him. To him, I'm just a poor old woman who causes him problems. And you're going to tell him now?" "No. I'm going to disappear from his life. And he'll find out who his mother was when it's too late to change anything." Over the next week, Michael found several options for houses on the coast. He showed me photos of houses in lakeside towns in Michigan. One of them especially caught my eye. It was a modern beachfront house in a town I'll call Lakeside, with 2,100 square feet, 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a private garden, a pool, and a 2-car garage. The price was $385,000. "Michael, I like that house. Can we go see it?" "Of course, Miss Lopez. I'll call the seller and set up a visit." The following Wednesday, we drove to Lakeside to see the house. The trip took about an hour and a half from Chicago. During the drive, Michael filled me in on the details. "Miss Lopez, the house is only 5 years old. It was built by a businessman from Chicago who used it as a second home. It has central air, radiant floor heating, a fully equipped kitchen with high-end appliances, and all the rooms have a view of the lake." When we arrived in Lakeside and I saw the house, I knew immediately it was what I was looking for. It was a modern, 2-story building with a white facade and large windows. The garden was perfectly manicured, with a lush lawn, trees, and an automatic sprinkler system. The pool was rectangular, about 25 by 15 feet, with an integrated jacuzzi area. The real estate agent, a man named Raphael, greeted us at the door. "Good morning. You must be the people who came to see the house on Lakeview Drive." "That's right," Michael replied. "This is Miss Lopez, who is interested in the property." Raphael showed us every corner of the house. The main living room was spacious and bright, with marble floors and a modern fireplace. The kitchen was spectacular, with a center island, Bosch appliances, and a pantry. The bedrooms were spacious, all with built-in closets and ensuite bathrooms. The master bedroom, Raphael explained, has a private 300-square-foot deck with panoramic views of the lake. You can watch the sunset from here every evening. I stepped out onto the deck and saw the beach just 50 yards away. The lake was calm, and a few people were strolling along the shore. "How long would it take to close the deal if we decide to buy?" Michael asked. "If the lady has her financing ready, we could sign in 2 weeks," Raphael replied. "I don't need financing," I said. "I'm paying cash." Raphael was surprised. "Cash? The full $385,000? "The full $385,000 in cash," I confirmed. "In that case, we could sign next week if you'd like." During the drive back to Chicago, Michael couldn't stop smiling. "Miss Lopez, that house is magnificent. You're going to be very happy there. Michael, I also need you to find a car. Something comfortable and elegant. What kind of car do you like? A Mercedes E-Class or a BMW 5 Series? Automatic, fully loaded. Miss Lopez, don't you think this is going to be a very radical change? Going from living on $900 a month to spending $500,000 on a house and a luxury car? Michael, I've spent 15 years pretending to be poor. I think it's time to live like what I really am." That same week, while Michael handled the purchase of the house and the search for the car, I took care of other important matters. I called my bank to inform them that I would be making large transactions. "Miss Lopez, I see you're going to transfer almost $500,000. Is this for an investment?" "It's to buy a house in cash," I explained. "Perfect, Miss Lopez. Do you need any financial advising?" "No, thank you. I just want to make sure there are no issues with the transfers." I also went to the post office to rent a P.O. box in Lakeside. I didn't want my mail going to my new address in case Daniel tried to find me. "Are you changing your address?" the clerk asked. "Yes, I'm moving to Lakeside, Michigan." "Do you want your mail forwarded?" "No, I'd prefer a P.O. box." On Friday of that week, Michael called with good news. "Miss Lopez, I found the perfect car for you. It's a brand new Mercedes E-Class 220, automatic, with navigation, automatic climate control, leather seats, and all the safety options. It's at a dealership in Chicago for $52,000. Can we go see it?" "Of course, Miss Lopez. I've scheduled an appointment with the salesman for 5 p.m. this afternoon." We went to the Mercedes dealership. The car was stunning. Metallic silver, black leather interior, with an elegant modern design. The salesman, a young man named Charles, showed us all its features. This model has a 194 horsepower diesel engine, a 9-speed automatic transmission, satellite navigation, a rear-view camera, parking sensors, and a very complete set of standard features. "I like it," I said after looking the car over. "When could I have it?" Charles checked his computer. "If you sign today, we could have it ready by Monday. We just need to process the wire transfer and prepare the paperwork." "Perfect. I'll take it." Charles was a bit surprised by how quickly I decided. "Don't you want to take it for a test drive?" "Not necessary. I trust the Mercedes brand." On Monday morning, Michael came to pick me up to go sign for the house in Lakeside. We were meeting Raphael, the real estate agent, at the notary's office at 11 a.m. During the drive, I couldn't stop thinking about what I was doing. After 15 years of living modestly, I was about to spend almost $500,000 in a single week. "Miss Lopez?" Michael said as he drove. "Aren't you getting dizzy from changing your life so radically?" "On the contrary, Michael. It gives me a sense of freedom I've never felt before. For all these years, I've lived pretending to be someone I wasn't. And what are you going to do when your son finds out you've disappeared? My son is going to find out that his mother is no longer available to be spit on and called a disgusting old woman. Nothing more." We arrived at the notary's office in Lakeside at 11 on the dot. Raphael was already there with the sellers, a couple from Chicago in their 50 seconds. "Good morning, Miss Lopez," Raphael greeted me. "Are you ready to become the owner of the most beautiful house in Lakeside?" The notary, an older gentleman named Mr. Emilio, read all the closing documents. Miss Lopez, the house has 2,100 square feet of living space, a 4,300 square foot lot, a pool, garden, double garage, and is located on the beachfront. The total price is $385,000. Do you agree? Completely agree, I replied. I signed all the papers without hesitation. When the notary handed me the keys, I felt a special thrill. For the first time in my life, I had a luxury home that truly reflected my financial situation. Congratulations, Miss Lopez, Raphael said. I think you're going to be very happy in this house. The sellers came over to say goodbye. Miss Lopez, the woman said, we were very happy in this house for 5 years. I hope you will be too. After signing, we went directly to the house so Michael could help me do the first walkthrough as the owner. I opened the front door with my own keys and stepped into my new home. It was an incredible feeling. Everything was mine. The spacious living room with lake views, the equipped kitchen, the 4 bedrooms, the 3 bathrooms, the pool, the garden. Michael, I said as we stood on the main deck, I want you to hire someone to deep clean the house and get it perfect for when I move in. Of course, Miss Lopez. And what should we do about furniture? The house was sold unfurnished. I want to furnish it completely. Quality furniture, comfortable and elegant. I don't want to spare any expense. Michael took out his notebook. Any particular style? Modern but classic. Leather sofas, hardwood tables, comfortable beds, all high quality. And appliances? The best. Large TVs in the living room and bedrooms. A sound system, washer, dryer, dishwasher. Everything needed to live comfortably. Michael was taking notes on everything. Miss Lopez, this is going to cost a lot of money. Michael, I have almost $5 million. I think I can afford to furnish my house properly. That afternoon, we went to the Mercedes dealership to pick up my new car. When Charles, the salesman, handed me the keys to the silver Mercedes, I felt another wave of satisfaction. It was a beautiful car, comfortable, quiet, with a luxurious interior that smelled of new leather. Miss Lopez, Charles said, congratulations on your purchase. This is one of the best cars we have. I did the first test drive through Chicago. The car drove like a dream. The engine was powerful but silent. The automatic transmission worked perfectly, and all the electronic systems responded flawlessly. When I arrived at my Lincoln Park apartment with the Mercedes, some of the neighbors stared. It was clear they didn't expect to see Michelle Lopez, the modest retiree, getting out of a luxury car. Miss Linda, the baker from the corner, approached me. Miss Lopez, is that your car? Yes, Linda. I just bought it. My goodness, what a beautiful car. Did you win the lottery? Something like that, Linda. Something like that. Over the next few days, while Michael was busy furnishing the house in Lakeside, I focused on selling my condo and preparing for my final move. The real estate agency already had an interested buyer, a young couple looking for their first home. Miss Lopez, the agent told me, the couple is very interested, but they want to negotiate the price. They're offering $170,000. There's no negotiation, I replied. The price is $180,000. If they're not interested, find other buyers. The agent was surprised by my firmness. Miss Lopez, in these negotiations you always have to give a little. Miss, I'm in no rush to sell. If they want the house, they can pay what it's worth. In the end, the couple agreed to pay the $180,000. We closed the sale 2 weeks later. With that money, plus the savings I had, I could live like a queen for the rest of my life without touching a single dollar of the vineyard's profits. The week before I moved to Lakeside for good, Daniel called me. We hadn't spoken for almost a month, since the day he spit on me. Mom, how are you? I'm very well, Daniel. Mom, I wanted to apologize for what happened the other day. I lost my temper and said things I shouldn't have. You mean when you spit on me and called me a disgusting old woman? Yes, Mom. I'm so sorry about that. Daniel, apologies don't erase humiliation. I know, Mom, but I want you to know I'm sorry. And what do you want now, Daniel? I want you to reconsider leaving Chicago. It's crazy for you to go at your age to a place where you don't know anyone. I'm not going to leave anymore, Daniel. You're not? I'm so glad you've come to your senses. I'm not going to leave, because I've already left. There was silence on the other end of the line. What do you mean you've already left? I don't live in Chicago anymore, Daniel. I moved 3 days ago. What? Where are you? I am where I need to be, in a place where no one spits on me or calls me a disgusting old woman. Mom, this is insane. Where did you go? To a place much better than your nursing home. Mom, where are you? I'm coming to find you right now. You're not going to find me because I'm not going to tell you where I am. Mom, this is ridiculous. You're my mother. I have a right to know where you live. Daniel, when you decided to spit on me, I decided to disappear from your life. Now you have to live with the consequences. I hung up the phone and turned it off. It was the first conversation I'd had with Daniel since I moved to Lakeside, and it was going to be the last for a very long time. My new life in Lakeside began in a way I had never experienced before. For the first time in 72 years, I was living without financial worries and without having to justify my expenses to anyone. Michael had done an excellent job furnishing the house. He had chosen Italian leather sofas, solid oak tables, beds with high-end mattresses, and top-of-the-line appliances. The first day I woke up in my new house, I went out to the deck with a cup of coffee and just looked at the lake. It was a spectacular view. The beach was practically empty because it was the off-season, and there were only a few fishermen preparing their boats. The sound of the waves was relaxing, and the lake breeze filled my lungs with fresh air. This is the life, I thought as I enjoyed my coffee. Over the next few days, I established a routine that made me feel completely renewed. I would wake up at 8, have breakfast on the deck overlooking the lake, read the newspaper, take a walk on the beach, have lunch at a restaurant in town, take a nap, and in the afternoon, I'd go for a drive in the Mercedes. The neighbors' reactions when they saw me with the Mercedes were amusing. At first, they thought I was a wealthy tourist from Chicago or New York who had rented the house for a vacation. When they found out I was the new owner, they began to treat me with a deference I had never experienced in Chicago. "Good morning, Miss Lopez." David, the owner of the corner cafe, would greet me. "How are you today?" "Very well, David. This town is a wonder. Miss Lopez, if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. We all help each other out here." The difference in how people treated me was stark. Here, people saw me as an older lady with resources, someone respectable who had decided to retire to the lake. No one treated me like an old woman who was a problem or needed pity. 3 weeks after I moved, Michael came to visit to see how I was adjusting and to bring me the monthly reports from the vineyard. "Miss Lopez, you look great. This change has done you wonders." "Michael, you have no idea. For the first time in years, I feel truly free. And how are your expenses? Do you need more money?" "I'm doing fine for now. Between the sale of the condo and the savings I had, I can live for several months without any issues." "How are the profits from the vineyard?" Michael opened his folder. "Miss Lopez, we had excellent profits this month. $18,500 net. The demand for premium American wine is through the roof in Europe." "Perfect. Keep depositing the money into my checking account." "Miss Lopez, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course. Don't you miss your son and your granddaughters?" The question made me reflect. I miss the granddaughters because they are not to blame for anything, but I don't miss my son. I miss the son I thought I had, not the son I actually have. And if he truly regrets it, if he comes looking for you to apologize, Michael, my son won't regret hurting me. He'll regret the consequences of hurting me, which is very different. During that visit, Michael told me something that worried me. "Miss Lopez, your son has called the winery several times asking for you." "He called the winery? How did he get the number?" "I don't know, Miss Lopez, but he's called 3 times in the last few days." "And what did you tell him?" "What you asked me to. That I don't know him and I've never heard of any Michelle Lopez." "Did he believe you?" "The first time, yes. But the other times he got very insistent. He says he knows his mother has some connection to vineyards and that he won't stop until he finds you." That worried me quite a bit. If Daniel had gotten as far as the winery, it meant he was digging deep. "Michael, do you think he can track me to Lakeside?" "It's difficult, Miss Lopez. There's nothing connecting your name to this house. You bought it through my company, and it's listed as a real estate investment. Perfect. But stay alert in case he calls again." A week after Michael's visit, as I was having dinner on my deck, my doorbell rang. It was very strange because I wasn't expecting anyone, and it was already 9 p.m. I looked out the window and saw an unfamiliar car parked at the curb. It was a black sedan. I opened the door cautiously and found a man in his 42nd whom I had never seen before. "Are you Michelle Lopez?" Yes, I am. Who are you? My name is Frank Miller. I'm a private investigator. Your son Daniel hired me to find you. My blood ran cold. Daniel had hired a private investigator to find me. A private investigator? Yes, Miss Lopez. Your son is very worried about you. He doesn't know where you are and wants to make sure you're okay. Well, you can tell my son that I am perfectly fine. Frank pulled a notebook from his pocket. Miss Lopez, can I ask why you left Chicago without telling your family? Because my family made it very clear that I was a burden in their lives. Your son told me you had an argument, but he says he is very sorry. Did he tell you that he spit on me and called me a disgusting old woman? Frank was silent for a moment. He did not tell me that, Miss Lopez. Well, that's what happened. And after that, I decided I wanted nothing more to do with him. Frank continued to take notes. Miss Lopez, may I ask how you can afford a house like this? Your son told me you lived on a small pension. Is my financial situation any of your business? No, ma'am, but my client is confused because he doesn't understand how you can live in a luxury home if you don't have the resources. Tell your client that his mother is not the poor woman he thinks she is. Frank looked up from his notebook. What do you mean by that? I mean that my son judged me without knowing the whole truth, and now it's too late for explanations. Miss Lopez, your son wants to talk to you. Would you be willing to take a call from him? I am not willing to speak to someone who spit on me. Miss Lopez, people sometimes do things they regret. Indeed. And sometimes the consequences of those things last forever. Frank closed his notebook. Miss Lopez, is there any message you'd like me to give your son? Yes. Tell him his mother is living better than ever. That she has a beautiful house, a luxury car, and a quiet life without anyone disrespecting her. And tell him that thanks to him, I've discovered how happy one can be without a family that despises you. Frank was silent for a moment. Miss Lopez, are you sure you don't want to give your son a chance? I am completely sure. The day after the detective's visit, I decided to take more drastic measures to protect my privacy. I didn't want Daniel to keep sending investigators to my house or bothering me in any way. I called a lawyer in a nearby city recommended by the notary in Lakeside. Good morning, this is Michelle Lopez. I need legal advice on a family matter. Of course, Miss Lopez. I'm Jacob Miller. How can I help you? My son is harassing me through private investigators, and I want to know my rights to make him leave me alone. We arranged to meet that afternoon at his office. Jacob Miller was a professional man in his 50s who listened attentively as I told him the whole story. Miss Lopez, what you're telling me is very serious. Your son has no right to harass you in any way. Can I do anything legally to make him stop? Absolutely. We can send him a certified letter warning him that if he continues to bother you, we will take legal action. We can also request a restraining order if necessary. I want you to send that letter immediately. Jacob Miller prepared the letter that same afternoon. It read, Mr. Daniel Lopez, on behalf of my client, Michelle Lopez, I am informing you that she does not wish to have any contact with you. She warns that if you continue to send private investigators, call her associates, or bother her in any way, we will proceed with appropriate legal measures, including seeking a restraining order. When will you send it? First thing tomorrow morning by certified mail, with return receipt requested. Over the next few days, I tried to get back to my normal routine, but I was worried Daniel might show up in Lakeside or send more investigators. To distract myself, I decided to explore the area more. Lakeside was a beautiful town with magnificent beaches, friendly people, and an excellent quality of life. I joined the golf club in a nearby town, which was a 20-minute drive away. I hadn't played golf in years, but it had been one of my favorite hobbies when I was younger. The first day I went to the club, the manager gave me a warm welcome. Good morning, I'm Michelle Lopez. I just joined a few days ago. Of course, Miss Lopez. Welcome to the club. Is this your first time playing here? Yes, I just moved to Lakeside. Perfect. Do you need to rent clubs, or do you have your own? I need to buy a whole new set. I haven't played in years and don't have any equipment. They sold me a high-end set of Callaway clubs, golf shoes, proper attire, and everything I needed to get back into the sport. The bill was almost $2,000, but for the first time in my life, I didn't care about the price. At the club, I met other women my age who had also retired to the lake. I moved here 5 years ago, a woman named Teresa from Chicago told me. She was 68. Best decision of my life. Life is different here. Did you have family problems too? I asked. Something like that. My kids wanted me to move in with them in Chicago, but I preferred my independence. In the end, I decided to move here and live my life my way. It was comforting to know I wasn't the only older woman who had decided to distance herself from her family to live in peace. Teresa introduced me to other club members: Linda, who had been an engineer; Eleanor, who had owned a transport company; Sarah, a local who had been a doctor. "We're kind of a club of retirees who decided to enjoy life," Linda said with a laugh. "We've all left family problems behind and now we live like queens." A week after sending the certified letter to Daniel, Jacob Miller called me. "Miss Lopez, I have news about the letter we sent to your son." "Did he receive it?" "Yes, he received it 3 days ago. And I have something else to tell you." "What happened?" "Your son has hired another lawyer and has sent me a letter requesting information about your whereabouts. He says he's concerned about your mental state and believes you are not fit to make important decisions." I was furious. Is he saying my son wants to declare me incompetent? Not exactly, but he's exploring that possibility. His lawyer suggests he could request a psychological evaluation to determine if you are fit to live alone. That's unbelievable. First, my son kicks me out of his life, and now he wants to declare me crazy to control me. Miss Lopez, don't worry. To do something like that, he would have to prove to a judge that you are not of sound mind, and seeing how you live and manage your affairs, that would be impossible. What can we do to stop this? We can have a forensic doctor conduct a full evaluation to prove that you are perfectly competent. We can also prepare a harassment lawsuit if he continues to bother you. That afternoon, I went to the doctor in Lakeside for a full checkup. I wanted to have all my medical records updated in case Daniel went ahead with his threat to declare me incompetent. Doctor Roberts gave me a thorough examination. Blood tests, an EKG, a neurological exam, memory and coordination tests. "Miss Lopez," he said when all the tests were done, "you are in excellent health for your age. Perfect blood pressure, strong heart, normal reflexes, intact memory. I see no problems. Doctor, I need you to write a full medical report certifying my mental and physical health." "What do you need it for?" "Legal matters. My son is questioning my ability to make decisions." Dr. Roberts was surprised. "Miss Lopez, you are perfectly capable of making any decision. Your mental state is completely normal. That's what I need you to certify in writing." 2 days later, Dr. Roberts gave me a 5-page medical report certifying that I was in perfect physical and mental health, that I had no memory problems, showed no signs of dementia or cognitive decline, and was fully competent to make decisions about my life. With that report, I went to see Jacob Miller. "Perfect, Miss Lopez. With this document, any attempt by your son to question your competency will be immediately dismissed." "And what do we do now?" "Now we wait and see if your son proceeds with his threats. If he does, we stop him in his tracks, legally." That night, as I had dinner on my deck watching the sunset over the lake, I reflected on how absurd the situation had become. My own son, who had thrown me out of his life by spitting on me and calling me a disgusting old woman, now wanted to declare me incompetent so he could control me. It was clear he couldn't stand the idea that I could live well without him. A month after Daniel's legal threat, my life in Lakeside had completely stabilized. The daily routines gave me a peace I hadn't known in years. I woke up every morning without the anxiety of expecting unpleasant calls or visits that made me feel like a burden. For the first time in a long time, each day was mine to enjoy as I pleased. The friends from the golf club had become my new chosen family. We played 3 times a week and then had beers on the club's patio, discussing the game. "Michelle," Teresa told me one day, "you've been here for 2 months and you look 10 years younger. Happiness is written all over your face." "It's because for the first time, I'm living without anyone judging me or making me feel bad for my decisions," I replied. "It's an incredible feeling." Linda, who had been listening, added, "That's the advantage of getting away from a toxic family. You get your dignity and your joy for life back." One afternoon, while we were playing golf, Eleanor asked a question that made me think. "Michelle, don't you miss your granddaughters?" The question hurt because I did miss Martha and Sarah. "I miss them very much," I admitted. "But I can't have a relationship with them without having to put up with their father. What if they come looking for you when they're older? I hope they do. I've thought a lot about that, and I think when they're 18, they'll be better able to understand what happened." Sarah, who was the most direct of the group, told me, "Michelle, you did the right thing. Grandchildren can't be used as tools for emotional blackmail." During these conversations with my new friends, I came to understand that my situation wasn't so unusual. Many women of my generation had had to make difficult decisions regarding their families. The difference, Teresa explained, is that we have the financial resources to maintain our independence. Many old people put up with humiliation because they have no other choice. That reflection made me value the decision I had made even more. If I had been truly poor as Daniel believed, I probably would have had to endure his contempt and end up in the nursing home he wanted for me. But my financial situation had given me the freedom to choose. Michael continued to visit me regularly to keep me updated on the vineyard and the profits. Miss Lopez, this quarter we've broken all profit records, $65,000 in 3 months. The international demand for our wine just keeps growing. And have you heard anything from Daniel? He hasn't called the winery again, but I've heard rumors that he's asking around about vineyard owners named Michelle Lopez. Do you think he can trace it back to us? It's difficult, Miss Lopez. The vineyard is registered under the company's name, not directly in your name. He'd have to be very persistent and very lucky. Stay alert anyway. One afternoon, while I was at home reading on the deck, I received a call from an unknown number. Michelle Lopez? Yes, this is she. This is Eleanor, Rachel's sister. Can you talk for a moment? Eleanor was Daniel's sister-in-law, a woman of about 35 who had always been kind to me. Hello, Eleanor. How are you? Michelle, I'm very worried about the situation between you and Daniel. Rachel is a wreck, and the girls are constantly asking about their grandma. Eleanor, I didn't create this situation. It was Daniel who chose to spit on me and call me a disgusting old woman. I know, Michelle. Rachel told me what happened, and she's so ashamed. She says Daniel acted like a savage. And what do you want me to do? Michelle, don't you think Daniel might have learned his lesson? He's lost a lot of weight. He's very depressed. He's realized he made a terrible mistake. Eleanor, the problem isn't that he made a mistake. The problem is that he disrespected me in the most humiliating way possible, and that's not something you forgive. But Michelle, he's your only son. My only son showed me that he despises me. Now I'm showing him that I don't need him. Eleanor sighed. Michelle, the girls are suffering a lot. They don't understand why their grandma doesn't want to see them. That part of the conversation hurt me especially. Eleanor, the girls are not to blame, but I can't let Daniel use them to emotionally manipulate me either. Is there nothing Daniel can do to fix this? Nothing, Eleanor. Absolutely nothing. Michelle, can I ask you something? Rachel says you're living in a very nice house now and have an expensive car. How can you afford that? Eleanor, it turns out I'm not the poor woman your family thought I was. What do you mean? I mean, Daniel judged me without knowing the whole truth about my financial situation. Are you rich? I am richer than Daniel can possibly imagine. Eleanor was silent for a few seconds. Michelle, if Daniel had known that, he never would have treated you that way. Exactly, Eleanor. If he had known I had money, he would have treated me like a queen. That proves that his respect for me depended on my bank account, not on me being his mother. Michelle, that's very harsh. Life is harsh, Eleanor, and sometimes the decisions we make have consequences that last forever. After hanging up with Eleanor, I thought about the conversation. It was clear that the whole family was suffering the consequences of what Daniel had done, but it was also clear that their suffering was not going to change my decision. That night, as I walked along the beach, I reflected on the 8 months I had been in Lakeside. It had been the happiest period of my life since Hope died. I was living without pressure, without criticism, without having to justify my decisions to anyone. I had friends who appreciated me, a beautiful house, financial stability, and a peace I had never known. The only shadow in my new life was the memory of my granddaughters. Martha and Sarah were not to blame for their father's decisions, but I couldn't maintain a relationship with them without having to endure Daniel's manipulations. It was a painful situation, but necessary to maintain my dignity. 6 months after moving to Lakeside, my life had settled into a stability and happiness I hadn't known in decades. The daily routine gave me a sense of absolute freedom. Waking up when I wanted, having a leisurely breakfast on the deck, reading the paper without rushing, playing golf with my friends, walking on the beach, having dinner watching the sunset over the lake. It was a simple life but full of small pleasures that I cherished more each day. The profits from the vineyard continued to arrive promptly every month. Michael had secured new contracts with German and French distributors, which had increased revenues even more. Miss Lopez, he told me during his monthly visit, this year we are going to break all records. I estimate your annual profits will be close to $220,000. Michael, do you know what the best part of all this money is? I asked. Tell me, Miss Lopez, that now I know I can live exactly as I want, without depending on anyone or putting up with anyone's disrespect. And what are you going to do with so much money? Live well, but without showing off. Buy the things I like, travel if I feel like it, help who I see fit, and above all, have the peace of mind of knowing that no one can blackmail me emotionally because I need their help. During those months, I had established a very pleasant social routine. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I played golf with Teresa, Linda, Eleanor, and Sarah. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I went for walks on the beach with a group of retirees from the town. On Saturdays, I would usually go to a nice restaurant in the area, and Sundays were for resting and reading at home. Michelle, Teresa told me one afternoon after golf, you look like a different person since you arrived. At first you seemed angry and hurt, but now you radiate peace. It's because I've found my place in the world, I replied. A place where no one judges me, no one criticizes me, no one makes me feel like I'm in the way. Sarah, who was very direct, added, what you've done is reclaim your self-esteem. For years you put up with being treated badly, and now you've remembered that you deserve respect. Exactly. And I've learned that it's better to be alone than in bad company, even if that bad company is your own family. One Saturday afternoon, while I was shopping at the farmer's market in Lakeside, a woman approached me. Are you Michelle Lopez? She was a woman in her 40s I didn't know. Yes, I am. Do we know each other? No, but I believe you are Daniel Lopez's mother. My blood ran cold. Who are you? I'm Linda, a friend of Rachel's. I came from Chicago for the weekend, and Rachel asked me that if I happened to see you, to try to talk to you. And what do you want to tell me? Linda looked around to make sure not too many people were listening. Michelle, Daniel is doing very badly. He lost his job because he can't concentrate. Rachel is desperate because she doesn't know what to do with him. Linda, that is not my problem. Michelle, I know Daniel treated you very badly. Rachel told me what happened, but he is truly devastated. And you expect me to feel sorry for him? No, Michelle. I just hope you understand that people sometimes make mistakes and deserve a second chance. Linda, there are mistakes that don't deserve second chances, and spitting on your mother and calling her a disgusting old woman is one of them. Linda was quiet for a few seconds. Michelle, the girls ask about you every day. That sentence hurt me more than I expected. And what do you tell them? We tell them that Grandma is mad at Dad, and that she needs time to forgive him. And what do they say? Martha, the oldest, says that if Dad did something wrong, he has to apologize to Grandma. Sarah says she wants to come find you to give you a hug and fix everything. Hearing that brought tears to my eyes. Linda, I love my granddaughters very much, but I can't have a relationship with them if it means having to endure their father. What if Daniel promises not to bother you? If he just wants you to keep in touch with the girls? Linda, Daniel has already shown me how he keeps his promises. He promised me respect for 38 years, and in the end, he spit on me. Michelle, don't you think he deserves to know how you're living now? Rachel says you have a very nice house and an expensive car. And what does that matter? It matters because Daniel feels guilty for judging you wrongly. If he had known you had money, he never would have suggested you go to a nursing home. Exactly, Linda. If he had known I had money, he would have treated me well. That proves his respect for me depended on my bank account. But Michelle, isn't it normal for children to worry when they think their parents don't have resources? Linda, worrying is one thing. Spitting and calling someone a disgusting old woman is something else entirely. Linda realized she wasn't going to convince me. Michelle, is there any message you want me to give to Daniel? Yes. Tell him his mother is living like a queen, that she has a beautiful house on the beach, that she has a Mercedes, that she plays golf 3 times a week, that she has friends who respect her, and that she is happier now than she has been in the last 10 years. And for the girls, tell them that Grandma loves them very much, but that she can't see them until they are older and can come on their own, without their parents. Linda was shocked. Until they're older? Until they are 18 and can make their own decisions about whether they want to know their grandmother or not. Michelle, that's a long time. It's as long as it takes for them to learn that in life, words have consequences, and that disrespecting your elders is not something that can be fixed with a simple apology. After the encounter with Linda at the market, I decided to take additional measures to protect my privacy. It was clear that Daniel was not going to stop looking for me and sending intermediaries to try and locate me. I called Jacob Miller, my lawyer, to ask for advice on how to completely secure my new life. "Miss Lopez," Jacob said, "we can take several legal steps to ensure no one can bother you. We can change your tax residence, create a corporation to manage your assets, and even request special data protection." What does special data protection mean? It means your personal data will not appear in any public records. Only judicial authorities could access it with a court order. Perfect. Do whatever is necessary. Over the next few weeks, Jacob Miller completely reorganized my legal situation. He created a company called Lakeside Investments, LLC, which became the official owner of my house in Lakeside and my car. He also handled the change of tax residence and the data protection. "Miss Lopez," he explained when all the paperwork was done, "it is now virtually impossible for anyone to locate you through official records. Your son would have to hire a very professional detective and spend a lot of money to find you. And the vineyard? That was already protected because it's listed under Michael's company name. There are no documents that directly link you to it." One afternoon, while I was playing golf with my friends, Linda asked a question that surprised me. "Michelle, have you thought about making a will?" "A will?" "Yes, of course. You have a lot of money, and if something happens to you, it's important that everything is well organized." It was true that I hadn't thought about that. Since moving to Lakeside, I had been so focused on enjoying my new life that I hadn't thought about inheritance issues. You think it's important? Absolutely. You need to have everything tied up to avoid problems for your heirs. That night, I called Jacob Miller to make an appointment to draft a will. "Miss Lopez, I think that's very wise. Have you already decided how you want to distribute your assets?" "More or less. I want to leave something for my granddaughters when they're older, but I don't want to leave anything to my son." "Nothing at all?" "Nothing at all. My son showed me he despises me, so he doesn't deserve to inherit a single dollar of my money." A week later, I went to Jacob Miller's office to make the will. I had thought a lot about how I wanted to distribute my assets. "Miss Lopez, how do you want to arrange the inheritance?" "I want to leave $1 million to each of my granddaughters, which they can collect when they turn 25. The rest, I want to donate to charitable organizations." "Charitable organizations?" "Yes. Nursing homes that treat the elderly well, associations that help elderly people abandoned by their families, organizations that fight against elder abuse." Jacob Miller took note of everything. "And for your son?" "For my son, nothing. $0. And I want it expressly stated in the will that I am disinheriting him for having disrespected me in a grievous and continuous manner." "Miss Lopez, are you completely sure of that decision?" "Completely sure. My son wanted me to go to a nursing home thinking I was poor. Now my money will go to help elderly people who actually need those homes." The will was drafted very clearly. My granddaughters would each receive $1 million when they turned 25, on the condition that they came to visit me at least once before collecting the inheritance. The rest of my estate, which would be approximately another $3 million, would be divided among 5 charitable organizations that helped the elderly. After signing the will, I felt relieved of one more worry. "Jacob, now that everything is organized, what happens if my son tries to contest the will? It would be very difficult for him to succeed. The will is drafted very clearly, and you are in perfect mental health. Additionally, we've included a clause stating that if anyone contests the will without just cause, they automatically lose any right to the inheritance." That night, I had dinner on my deck with a feeling of complete satisfaction. I had organized my life exactly as I wanted. I had a beautiful house, more than enough income, friends who respected me, a pleasant routine, and the peace of mind of knowing that no one could bother me. I had also organized my death in a way that my money would help people who really needed it, instead of going to a son who had despised me. Over the next few months, my life in Lakeside continued to be placid and satisfying. The income from the vineyard kept coming in on time. My friends from golf had become a second family, and with each passing day, I became more convinced that I had made the right decision. One afternoon, Teresa made a comment that made me reflect. "Michelle, you've been here for almost a year, and you're like a completely different person. At first, you were a hurt and angry woman. Now, you are a woman at peace. It's because I've learned something very important, Teresa. What have you learned? I've learned that family isn't just about blood. True family are the people who love you, respect you, and make you feel good. You all are more family to me than my own son. Linda, who had been listening, added, That's the great lesson of life, Michelle. That you can choose your family, and it's better to have a chosen family that makes you happy than a blood family that makes you suffer. A year and a half after moving to Lakeside, my new life had completely solidified. The daily routine provided me with a constant happiness I hadn't known in decades. I woke up every morning without the anxiety of receiving unpleasant calls or visits that made me feel like a burden. Each day was an opportunity to enjoy the freedom I had earned with my decision. The profits from the vineyard had continued to grow thanks to Michael's excellent management. Miss Lopez, he told me during his monthly visit, this year we are going to exceed all expectations. Your profits will be close to $250,000 annually. Michael, do you know what's most satisfying about all this? Tell me, Miss Lopez. That my son threw me out of his life thinking I was a poor old woman who caused him problems, and it turns out I was richer than he could ever imagine. Have you ever been tempted to tell him? Never. Let him live with the guilt of having thrown out his poor mother. If he knew the truth, he would feel worse, but for the wrong reasons. During that time, I had perfected my lifestyle in Lakeside. I had bought a small boat to go fishing on the weekends. I had also hired a woman from the town, Emily, to help me with the housework twice a week, and I had started traveling occasionally. A weekend in Montreal, a few days in the Caribbean, a week in Hawaii. Michelle, Eleanor told me one afternoon at the golf club, you have the life we all wish we had. Money, health, freedom, and the peace of not having to put up with anyone who makes you suffer. The most important thing, I replied, is that I have regained my dignity. For years, I put up with derogatory comments, visits where I felt like a nuisance, situations where they made me feel like I was a burden. Now, no one treats me like that. Sarah, who was always very direct, added, What you've done is realize your own worth. Many old people put up with humiliation because they think they have no other choice. But you've shown that there are other options. One afternoon, while I was reading on my deck, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Michelle Lopez? Yes, this is she. I'm Teresa, Hope's sister. Do you remember me? Of course I remembered Teresa. She was my late husband's younger sister, a woman of about 65 who lived in Chicago. Hello, Teresa. What a surprise. How are you? Very well, Michelle. I'm calling because I heard about what happened with Daniel. Who told you? Rachel called me a few days ago. She's very worried about the whole situation. Teresa had always maintained a good relationship with our family, although after Hope's death, we had lost touch. Michelle, Rachel told me that Daniel treated you very badly. He behaved in an unforgivable way, Teresa. Is it true that he spit on you? It's true. He spit in my face and called me a disgusting old woman. Teresa was silent for a few seconds. Michelle, that's terrible. I never would have imagined Daniel could do something like that. I wouldn't have imagined it either, but he did. Michelle, where are you now? Rachel says you have a very nice house. I'm in Lakeside, in a house right on the beach. In Lakeside? How can you afford that? Teresa, it turns out I'm not the poor woman Daniel thought I was. What do you mean? I told her the whole story of the inheritance from my brother Anthony, the vineyard, the profits it had been generating all these years. Teresa couldn't believe it. Michelle, are you telling me you're a millionaire? Exactly. I have a net worth of almost $5 million. My God. And Daniel didn't know? He knew nothing. To him, I was a poor retiree living on $900 a month. Michelle, if Daniel had known that, he never would have treated you that way. Exactly, Teresa. If he had known I had money, he would have treated me like a king. That proves his respect for me depended on my bank account. Teresa sighed. Michelle, I understand you're very hurt, but don't you think Daniel might have learned his lesson? Teresa, there are lessons that are learned too late, and this is one of them. Michelle, the girls miss you very much. I miss them too, but I can't have a relationship with them without having to put up with their father. What if Daniel promises not to bother you, if he just wants you to keep in touch with the girls? Teresa, Daniel already showed me how he keeps his promises. Michelle, is there nothing I can do to fix this situation? Nothing, Teresa. Absolutely nothing. Michelle, what if I tell you how Daniel is really doing now? I'm not interested in how Daniel is doing. Michelle, He's lost 2 jobs in a row because he can't concentrate. Rachel says he barely eats, doesn't sleep, and cries constantly. He's lost over 30 pounds. Teresa, that's his problem. He made the decision to spit on me, and now he has to live with the consequences. Michelle, but he's your only son. My only son showed me that he despises me. Now I'm showing him that I don't need him. Teresa made one last attempt. Michelle, Hope wouldn't have wanted things to end like this. Teresa, Hope wouldn't have tolerated his son spitting on me either. If she were alive, she would have been the first one to kick him out of the house. Michelle, is there anything Daniel can do to make you forgive him? Yes, Teresa. He can invent a time machine, go back in time, and not spit on me. Michelle, that's impossible. Exactly. It's impossible. That's why there's no possible forgiveness. Teresa realized she wasn't going to convince me. Michelle, can I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Are you happy with the life you have now? Teresa, I am happier now than I have been in the last 10 years. I have a beautiful house, friends who respect me, enough money to live like a queen, and the peace of mind of not having to put up with anyone's humiliation. Don't you miss having a family? I miss having the family I thought I had, but I don't miss the family I actually had. After hanging up with Teresa, I thought about the conversation. It was clear that the entire extended family knew about the situation, and they had probably appointed Teresa to attempt a reconciliation. But my decision was firm and irrevocable. That night, as I had dinner at my favorite restaurant watching the sunset over the lake, I reflected on the 1.5 years I had been in Lakeside. It had been the most fulfilling and satisfying period of my adult life. Not just because of the money or the comfort, but because of something much more important, the recovery of my self-esteem and my dignity. For decades, I had put up with derogatory comments, uncomfortable situations, and treatment that made me feel like a burden. I had normalized the lack of respect because I thought it was the price I had to pay to stay in touch with my family. But now I knew I was wrong. The money had given me the freedom to choose, but the real transformation had been emotional. I had learned that I deserved respect, that my company had value, that I didn't have to apologize for existing. I had learned that it's better to be alone with dignity than accompanied by humiliation. It's been 2 years since I moved to Lakeside, Michigan, and since I made the decision to disappear from Daniel's life forever. In this time, my existence has become something I never thought I could experience at 74. A full, dignified, and completely free life. This morning, like every day for the past 2 years, I woke up in my house facing the lake without anyone making me feel like a nuisance. I had breakfast on my deck watching the fishermen prepare their boats, I read the newspaper without rushing, and I planned my day knowing that every minute belongs completely to me. The profits from the vineyard have continued to grow spectacularly. Michael visited last week with the annual figures. Miss Lopez, this year we've reached $280,000 in net profits. Your total net worth now exceeds $6 million. Michael, I said as we had coffee on my deck, do you know what the most satisfying part of all this is? Tell me, Miss Lopez, that when my son spit on me and called me a disgusting old woman, I already had more money than he will ever earn in his entire life. The friends from the golf club have become my true family. Teresa, Linda, Eleanor, and Sarah are the sisters I chose to have. We play 3 times a week, travel together, celebrate our birthdays, and support each other through difficult times. Just yesterday, Teresa said something that touched my heart. Michelle, you've shown that it's never too late to start a new life. You are our example of dignity and courage. During these 2 years, I have continued to receive contact attempts from different people. Eleanor, Daniel's sister-in-law, has called several times. Teresa, Hope's sister, has insisted that I reconsider my position. I even received a letter from a priest in Chicago who knew the family, asking me to forgive my son in the name of Christian love. I have given them all the same answer. There are words that, once spoken, cannot be erased, and there are humiliations that do not deserve forgiveness. Daniel chose to spit on me and call me a disgusting old woman. Now I choose to live without him. Last week I received a certified letter from a lawyer in Chicago. It was from Daniel. The letter said, Mom, I know you want nothing to do with me, but I need to tell you something important. I've lost my job for good. Rachel is divorcing me because she can't stand living with someone so broken. The girls are going to live with their mother. My life is completely ruined because of what I did to you. I've sold the house to pay off debts. I'm going to work in Germany because I have no future here. Before I go, I wanted to apologize one more time and tell you that I regret what I did every single day of my life. Your loving son, Daniel. I read the letter twice and threw it in the trash without feeling either pity or satisfaction. It was simply confirmation that decisions have consequences and that some consequences last a lifetime. Yesterday was my 74th birthday. I celebrated at my favorite restaurant in Lakeside with my friends from golf. It was a simple party but full of genuine affection. During the toast, Linda said something that moved me. To Michelle, the woman who taught us that dignity has no price and that it's never too late to choose happiness. When I got home that night, I found an envelope in my mailbox. Inside was a photo of my granddaughters, who are now 14 and 11. On the back, someone had written in a child's handwriting, "Grandma, Dad went to Germany and says he doesn't know when he's coming back. Mom says when we're older we can come find you. We love you very much, Martha and Sarah." The photo moved me deeply. My granddaughters had grown so much, and they looked more and more like their grandmother, Hope, but it also confirmed that I had made the right decision. When they are older and can come on their own, without their parents' manipulations, we can get to know each other again. By then, they will understand why their grandmother had to stay away. This morning, during my daily walk on the beach, I reflected on everything that has happened in these 2 years. I have lost a son, but I have gained a life. I have lost my granddaughters temporarily, but I have gained my dignity forever. I have lost a family that despised me, but I have found friends who respect me. If you who have listened to me this far have gone through something similar, if someone in your family has ever spit on you, if someone has called you a disgusting old woman, if someone has made you feel like you are a burden, I want you to know something very important. You don't have to put up with it. Life is too short to spend it with people who don't value you, even if those people share your blood. I lost a son, but I gained my self-esteem. I lost my granddaughters temporarily, but I gained the peace of living without humiliation. I lost a family, but I gained the freedom to be myself. Today, at 74, I can say that I am happier than ever. I have a beautiful house facing the lake, a net worth of $6 million, true friends, and the satisfaction of knowing that no one can disrespect me because I don't depend on anyone. My son spit on me, believing I was a poor, disgusting old woman. Now he lives in exile in Germany, ruined and alone, knowing he threw a millionaire mother who only wanted to be respected out of his life. That is life's justice. Everyone reaps what they sow. And I, the disgusting old woman he spit on, live like a queen on the shores of Lake Michigan, surrounded by people who truly love me, enjoying every day the freedom that cost me so much to achieve, but was worth every tear I shed.